But first tonight, the full transcript of former FBI Director Jim Comey's interview with George Stephanopoulos has been released. It's a massive interview, clocking in at more than 5 hours, and it's deeply revealing. By now, you've probably heard a lot about what Comey has had to say about Donald Trump, and not very much of that was newsworthy, it turned out. The real value of this interview is what it says about James Comey. By the end, you realize that Comey never should have been FBI director. He's too partisan. Trump's main mistake was in not firing him on Inauguration Day. In his interview with ABC, Comey defends his prosecution of Martha Stewart, who you remember went to jail for lying to federal prosecutors. He then attacks General David Petraeus. According to Comey, Petraeus should have faced far more than a lone charge for mishandling classified information. He should have gone to prison for lying. In Comey's words, lying, quote, strikes at the heart of our rule of law in this country. Fair enough. The powerful should be held accountable for their misdeeds. But then Comey goes on to talk about the Mark Rich case. Do you remember that? On his way out of office, Bill Clinton sold a presidential pardon to a wanted felon who had fled the country. Comey is unambiguous about that case. Quote, I've never heard of another case where a fugitive from justice was pardoned. So Stephanopoulos then asks the obvious question. Quote, did you draw any conclusions about the Clintons, about Hillary Clinton from those experiences? Comey's response? Nope, none at all. Selling a presidential pardon to a fugitive says nothing whatsoever about the Clintons or their character. And by the way, Comey goes on to say, that Hillary Clinton is awfully smart and hardworking. Loretta Lynch gets the same soft treatment. Comey concedes that as Attorney General, Lynch did in fact pressure him to describe the Hillary email investigation as a, quote, matter, rather than what it actually was, a criminal investigation. Did Comey spot this obvious effort to politicize justice? Nope, not even close.
His first concern when she told him to refer to the Clinton email controversy as a matter rather than an investigation.
Did you think she was doing that to protect Hillary Clinton?
I didn't know. It worried me. It gave me an uncomfortable feeling because the Clinton campaign had been trying to come up with other words to describe it.
You know, I don't know, says Jim Comey. Comey doesn't know if Lynch was trying to protect Hillary Clinton. He doesn't want to draw any conclusions from that. He has no idea if the Attorney General was behaving politically when she told him to parrot the Clinton campaign's talking points. Comey goes on to say Loretta Lynch is a very smart and good person whom he respects very much. We remember that in the middle of all of this saga, President Obama publicly and repeatedly dismissed the entire Hillary Clinton email investigation as a nothing burger. Of course Hillary did nothing wrong, Obama said. Well, Comey concedes that Obama is a very smart lawyer, and he should have known better than to weigh in on an active investigation as president. The president shouldn't do that. Quote, do you think Obama was trying to color the case? Stephanopoulos asked. Once again, Comey replies, quote, I don't know. I don't think so. Well, there's a theme here. Again and again, partisan Democrats get every benefit of every doubt from Jim Comey. He can't rush to conclusions, that is until he sees the white circles under Donald Trump's eyes. Then he's happy to speculate. Comey says repeatedly that lying is what bothers him most. He's devoted his life to fighting against dishonesty. That's why he wrote the book, he says. But Comey also says that former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper is the public servant he admires most. That's right, the very same James Clapper who lied to Congress, falsely claiming that intelligence agencies don't spy on Americans when he knew perfectly well that they do.
Does the NSA collect any type of data at all on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans?
No, sir.
It does not.
Not wittingly.
Not wittingly. What you just saw is perjury. It's a federal crime. But unlike Martha Stewart, James Clapper got away with that. Jim Comey is happy that he did. The most revealing moments of the interview come when Comey describes the alleged Russian plot against our democracy. Comey claims repeatedly that Russia wanted Trump to beat Hillary Clinton in the election. But if it's that simple, why did Russian propagandists apparently attack Trump as well and stage protests against him? Comey doesn't address that. Instead, he acts as if we know for certain that Putin was working on Trump's behalf. But we absolutely do not know that for certain. In many cases, the facts contradict that conclusion. Comey is passing off speculation as fact. If Comey and the FBI really wanted to get to the bottom of a Russian plot against our democracy, why didn't the Bureau examine the DNC servers to make certain that Russia really hacked them? To this day, regardless of what you hear, we've never seen any evidence that the government of Russia directed the theft of data from those servers, or from John Podesta's Gmail account, for that matter. We just take that on faith. Everyone repeats it like it's true. But why should we believe that without actual proof? Because people like Jim Comey say so? Because our intel agencies never lie to us? Right. Comey's main piece of evidence that the president is a Russian stooge is that he never heard Trump criticize Vladimir Putin, even in private conversations. I don't know what's behind that, Comey says meaningfully. The implication is that Trump is unpatriotic, a traitor to America. So that's the new standard. Unless you denounce Putin vigorously and behind closed doors, our top law enforcement officials suspect you of disloyalty and criminal intent, and then all but accuse you of that on television. There's a name for this. It's called McCarthyism, and it's scarier than anything Trump has ever done with Russia. Finally, for a guy who says he's determined not to be political, Comey seems highly political. He says repeatedly in the interview with ABC that he's greatly influenced by his wife. He cites a number of occasions when she's weighed in on his job at DOJ, including during the investigation into torture at Abu Ghraib. Comey says again and again that he listens carefully to his wife. Well, given that, it's significant that Comey's wife turns out to be a bitter Hillary partisan. Watch.
On Saturday, January 21st, masses of demonstrators take to the streets, among them the family of James Comey.
My wife and girls marched in the Women's March the day after President Trump's inauguration. At least my 4 daughters, probably all 5 of my kids, wanted Hillary Clinton to be the first woman president. I know my amazing spouse did.
I wanted a woman president really badly, and I supported Hillary Clinton. A lot of my friends worked for her, and I was devastated when she lost.
Well, wait a second. We have news here. Jim Comey was the director of the FBI working for President Donald Trump. A bunch of his wife's friends worked on Hillary Clinton's campaign. Virtually his entire family marched against his boss on Trump's very first day of work. Comey gave ABC photographs of all of them carrying anti-Trump signs on the National Mall. We're not supposed to think that any of this had any effect on how Jim Comey approached his job in the Trump administration. But of course it did. Author and columnist Mark Steyn joins us tonight. So, Mark, Jim Comey tells us that he hates dishonesty, though Jim Clapper is his hero in the civil service. And then he says, when asked, well, why do you think Attorney General Loretta Lynch commanded you not to describe the criminal investigation into Hillary as a criminal investigation? He goes, I don't know. Just no idea. It didn't seem political to me. I mean, that's false.
Yeah, it is false. The circumstantial evidence that's staring you in the face when it comes to Democrat behavior, he professes to be blank about, but he'll happily, deliriously speculate on what Trump may have been doing with a bunch of prostitutes in Moscow. This is, basically fans of James Comey want it both ways, Tucker. I was listening to that bit about his wife and daughters marching in the Women's March the day after Trump's inauguration. On the one hand, we're told that James Comey is a straight shooter, a straight arrow, a Boy Scout. He's a nonpartisan civil servant. He's a straight shooting G-man. And on the other hand, his entire family is marching in this Women's March. I believe something like 4 million people marched across America. So out of the female population of the United States, that's about 2.5%. So it's not just that Mrs. Comey is a Hillary voter. It's that she's in the hardest hardcore of Hillary partisans. His number 2 at the FBI, Andrew McCabe, his wife is a Democrat candidate in Virginia. Again, it's not that, these are just people who pick candidate A or candidate B. They're in the hardest hardcore of partisans, and Comey and McCabe's tenure at the FBI was marked by a bizarre, grotesque partisanship that is far closer to obstruction of justice. If you look at the way Lynch behaved, McCabe behaved, Comey behaved, Strzok behaved, Page behaved, is far closer to real obstruction of justice than Trump is supposedly being investigated for.
So if you were starting a new job and your wife said to you, look, I really don't like your boss, and you might say, yeah, I don't really like him either, or whatever. No, I really don't like him. I want to go march with a sign denouncing him on the National Mall on his first day of work. Would you say, you know, maybe just for the sake of appearances, it is my boss after all, and my job requires me to have no political affiliation, maybe just kind of pull back on the public display of that a little bit? Or is that too much to ask in a marriage, do you think?
No, I think there's a difference to this. If you're the editor of Mother Jones, or even the editor of National Review, and the missus wants to march in the Women's March, I think that's fair enough. If they want to march in an anti-Tucker Carlson march or an anti-Mark Steyn march, I'm fine with that. But I think when you're a civil servant, particularly in law enforcement, then the Caesar's wife standard applies. And it's actually the only reason we're mired continuously in this ridiculous world of lawyers and legalisms and attorney-client privilege and lawsuits is because nobody understands. To come back to a word I use on this show a lot, Tucker, nobody understands what is seemly anymore. If you have to explain to the FBI director why his wife shouldn't be out shrieking in the streets at the Women's March with a bunch of big hats denouncing the president, if you have to explain to the FBI director why that's wrong, that guy shouldn't be FBI director.
Well, I think that, and I just want to be clear, I'm not attacking, and I don't think you are either, Comey's wife or her right to express her political views. That's great. I just don't think you can, with a straight face, say, I'm a totally nonpartisan FBI director when your whole family is marching against your boss on his first day of work. I mean, I just don't believe it. We're going to have more with Mark Steyn, because we can't get enough, and we don't think you can either. He's going to respond to a Chick-fil-A controversy, which is kind of interesting at the end of the show. We'll be right back.
Lot in the news. Obviously, the media are going absolutely apoplectic over the new James Comey book, which is supposedly filled with bombshells. There's only one problem. There are no bombshells in former FBI Director James Comey's new book. First of all, James Comey called this thing a higher loyalty. A loyalty to, like, the money? Because if this was all stuff of vital public import, then why exactly did he wait a year and a book contract before coming out with it? If he wants to demonstrate that he really is not in it for the cash, that he's really in it because he just wants to tell the truth, then he, like Stormy Daniels, could just give up the money. He's not going to be doing that anytime soon. And the media, I mean, they are so over the moon about this book, but they're really trying to make mountains out of not even molehills. I mean, the stories in this book are nothing. It's all James Comey's whiny opinions. Chris Wallace, I think, said it best on Fox News. He said this book is incredibly busy, and it really is. And if you look at this book and you read the segments from it, it's really just nasty and petty and stupid. That's at least what I'm getting from it, because I'm not seeing any revelations here. I'm not seeing anything that says to me, wow, this is something I didn't know. Remember, James Comey was fired because President Trump wanted him to clear him in the Russia investigation publicly. And James Comey said, you're not being investigated. And Trump said, well, say that publicly. And Comey said, no. And Trump said, fine, you're fired. Right? That's exactly what happened. And now we're supposed to believe that something deep and nefarious happened. Comey went on Capitol Hill. He testified that Trump had not obstructed his Russia investigation in any way. Trump just got rid of him because Trump apparently was unhappy with him, that Comey would not publicly say the truth, which is that Trump was not the target of the investigation or even a subject of the investigation at the time. Well, here are some of the revelations that the media are just going nuts over. And it's wall-to-wall coverage of James Comey's book because this was a preset agenda. There's a general point here to be made about the media that I think is relevant for people to understand over the last at least 15 to 20 years, most of my life in politics. And that is, the media are trying to portray it right now as though we live in a Trump-centric universe. Or that we live in this universe where everything revolves around Trump. Every story has to be refracted through the prism of Trump. That's not true. Okay, we actually live in a heliocentric universe, but the helios is not Trump. The helios is the media. Everything is about the media. All stories are refracted through the prism of the media. Trump is refracted through the prism of the media. Trump is a satellite orbiting the media. Right? The media are the grand arbiters of what it is that you see and what it is that you hear, and all of the politicians are speaking to, against, or through the media. And this has never been clearer than it is with regard to how they are treating the Comey stuff, because the Comey stuff is not even a blip, okay? This book is not even a blip. And this is not me coming at it from he's a political hack and all this kind of stuff. This is just, like, as objective as I can be about this. If there had been a bombshell in here, I would have been happy to report it to you. There is nothing. Because Robert De Niro is Al Capone in The Untouchables. He's got nothing. There's nothing here. Nothing. Zero things. Okay, so let's go through some of the supposed revelations. And here, first of all, he did an interview with George Stephanopoulos. It's supposed to air on Sunday. And here are some of the grand revelations. Again, this is all petty nonsense. Here's Stephanopoulos with Comey.
How graphic did you get?
I think, as graphic as I needed to be. I started to tell him about the allegation was that he had been involved with prostitutes in a hotel in Moscow in 2013 during a visit for the Miss Universe pageant, and that the Russians had filmed the episode. And he interrupted very defensively and started talking about it. You know, do I look like a guy who needs hookers? And I assumed he was asking that rhetorically. I didn't answer that, and I just moved on and explained, sir, I'm not saying that we credit this. I'm not saying we believe it. We just thought it very important that you know.
Did you tell him you thought it wasn't true, or you didn't know if it was true or not?
I never said I don't believe it, because I couldn't say one way or another.
How weird was that briefing?
Really weird. It was almost an out-of-body experience for me. I was floating above myself, looking down, saying, you're sitting here briefing the incoming president of the United States about prostitutes in Moscow. He says he may want me to investigate it to prove that it didn't happen. And then he says something that distracted me, because he said, you know, if there's even a 1% chance my wife thinks that's true, that's terrible. And I remember thinking, how could your wife think there's a 1% chance you were with prostitutes peeing on each other in Moscow? I'm a flawed human being, but there's literally zero chance that my wife would think that was true. So what kind of marriage to what kind of man does your wife think there's only a 99% chance you didn't do that? And I said to him, sir, when he started talking about it, I may order you to investigate that. I said, sir, that's up to you, but you'd want to be careful about that, because it might create a narrative that we're investigating you personally. And second, it's very difficult to prove something didn't happen.
Did you believe his denial?
Honestly, never thought these words would come out of my mouth, but I don't know whether the current president of the United States was with prostitutes peeing on each other in Moscow in 2013. It's possible.
Okay, this is such nonsense, stupidity. Okay, there's no evidence whatsoever to suggest that Donald Trump was having prostitutes pee on him in Moscow. Honest to God, if the president wanted to, the president doesn't have to pay anyone to pee on him. He's got the media doing it to him full time for free. Right? George Stephanopoulos is peeing on him. Okay, he doesn't need Russian prostitutes doing it for him. But James Comey sitting there and going, you know, it's just insane that the president of the United States would ask me to investigate this thing. And then in the same breath, like literally in the same sentence, saying, I don't know if it's true, though. I mean, it's possible. Well, if it's possible, then what are you complaining about him saying he wants it investigated to get to the bottom of it? Like, you think it's sort of true. And you're not the only one. Like, Seth Meyers goes on TV last night, and he says, well, clearly if Trump was asking about it, then probably Trump was peed on by Russian prostitutes, which doesn't make any sense at all. But it's amazing. The entire media that went nuts over the pee tape for literally months is now deeply concerned that Donald Trump wanted that investigated and himself cleared of it. Because how could he? How could he do such a thing? Well, maybe it's because you guys kept saying pee tape over and over for weeks. Probably it's that. And here's Seth Meyers making a fool of himself.
Oh, my God, it's real. It has to be. Why would you ask the FBI director to investigate a pee tape if you knew for a fact that pee tape definitely didn't exist? That's like me saying, can you make sure there isn't a tape of me in 1994 doing Thunder Road at karaoke and then barfing and then slipping on the barf and farting?
Okay, this is so stupid. Again, if President Trump actually thought he were guilty of this, would he want the FBI looking into it? The logic doesn't even make any sort of basic sense, but because the media are invested in making Trump into a mockery, they're going to say pee tape over and over and over and over again until all this is over. Comey, of course, makes a bunch of other allegations in the book. And again, he talked to Stephanopoulos about this. Here's some more of what he had to say to George Stephanopoulos in his big primetime interview that's coming on Sunday. Ooh, it's earth-shattering, except for the fact that all this is really about, as Nate Silver put it, not a man of the right. Nate Silver says his book shouldn't be called A Higher Loyalty. It should be called A Higher Royalty. Here is James Comey talking with Stephanopoulos.
President-elect Trump's first question was to confirm that it had no impact on the election. And then the conversation, to my surprise, moved into a PR conversation about how the Trump team would position this and what they could say about this. They actually started talking about drafting a press release with us still sitting there. And the reason that was so striking to me is that that's just not done. That the intelligence community does intelligence, the White House does PR and spin.
Okay, so are we supposed to believe that it's like a big deal that Trump doesn't know how government works? Congratulations, he doesn't know how government works. Wow, you've solved the Rubik's Cube here. You've solved the riddle. President Trump is not an expert on how the government works. Yeah, shocker to everyone. I'm sure everyone involved is just sitting around with their jaw slack to the floor. What utter nonsense and silliness. By the way, Comey said that he did not brief President Trump on the fact that this Fusion GPS dossier was originally funded by Democrats and Hillary Clinton. He didn't reveal that to Trump because presumably he didn't want Trump tweeting that out. That if he had known that the dossier was funded by the Democrats, he just would have said the dossier was funded by the Democrats. And then that would have immediately undercut the credibility of the dossier. So he said he didn't think it was relevant for Trump to know that. Okay, so it's relevant for Trump to know about stupid allegations with no evidence to back them about a pee tape with Russians peeing on each other and him. But it's not important at all for Trump to know that those allegations were being compiled by a firm being paid by Hillary Clinton. Completely irrelevant. Yeah, no, Comey's not a political actor at all. Okay, so here are some of the other allegations that Comey makes in the book that are supposed to be earth-shattering. So he says that he received a call from John Kelly, who's then the head of the Department of Homeland Security and now the White House Chief of Staff. And Kelly was, quote unquote, emotional over how Comey was fired. Comey writes that Kelly was sick about the situation and intended to quit in protest. Well, he didn't, did he? He's still around, is he not? He is the White House Chief of Staff. So apparently, who cares? Also, I love this. A couple other bombshells. Apparently, Comey ridicules Trump for being shorter than he anticipated and described Trump as having bright white half moons beneath his eyes. He also argued that Trump's ties were too long, according to the Associated Press, and suggested that when he shook Trump's hand, he evaluated his hand size. He said they might have been a little bit small, but not that much smaller than normal. That's not petty and ridiculous. That's not petty and silly. No, this is deep stuff that we all have to know about. I mean, James Comey is a man of honor. He's a man of deep honor. Sure, he blew the Hillary investigation. Sure, he botched everything he touched since basically like January 2016. But no, he's a man of honor, don't you understand? He's not out there grandstanding, getting $1 million advances and then going on national TV to talk about Trump's hand size. No. He is a man of deep and abiding respect and honor for institutions. Now, there are a couple of things in this book that are worth discussing. And so, other revelations in the James Comey book include this one. This is just, what a self-serving sad sack James Comey is. My goodness. Okay, this is a legit quote from the book. Comey writes that President Obama sat alone with him in the Oval Office in late November and told him, quote, "I picked you to be FBI director because of your integrity and your ability. I want you to know that nothing has happened in the last year to change my view." On the verge of tears, Comey told Obama, "Boy, were those words I needed to hear. I'm just trying to do the right thing." "I know," Obama said. "I know." Oh my God. Really? Really? You're saying that, oh, well, Obama said that I'm a good guy. He said I'm a good guy. I almost cried when he said I was a good guy. Blech. Okay, other things that are hilarious in this book. So apparently, Comey says in the book that when he revealed late in the election, right, 10 days before the election, that Hillary Clinton, they were reopening the email investigation because Hillary's emails were found on the computer of the accused child pornographer, Anthony Weiner, that when that happened, Comey considered the polling data, or he might have considered the polling data. He thought Hillary was so far ahead, it won't matter if I reveal this stuff now. But if he had thought that the election was really close, maybe he would have held it till after the election. Yeah, this is really a guy who's just full-on credible. I have to say, he is playing one of the great scams I have ever seen. I mean, this is a usual suspect level scam. Right? This is the Sting level scam. It's an amazing scam. How good is this scam? James Comey may have cost Hillary Clinton the election. Right? James Comey and his late breaking news in the election might have cost Hillary Clinton the presidency. And now the only people who love him are the people who voted for Hillary Clinton. That is an unbelievable scam. I mean, boy, oh boy, if I could have thought of that one. Cost Hillary the election and then turn on Trump and get all of the people who hated you to buy your book and declare you the most honest man in politics. What a beautiful scam that is. So apparently he also said in the book that as a prosecutor, he used to tell juries trying to evaluate a witness that you can't cherry pick. You can't say things like he's saying that's about Trump. I like these things he said, but on this, he's a dirty, rotten liar. You got to take it all together. So you got to wrap Trump up into a ball and then take it all at face value. Okay, then why didn't you do that with Hillary Clinton? Why did you pick and choose which facts you were to go over about Hillary Clinton? Why is that a thing? By the way, there is a serious question as to whether James Comey has violated his FBI review rules, right? He's actually, there are prohibited disclosures by the FBI. FBI employees shall not disclose information that relates to the substantive merits of any ongoing or open investigation or case. So all of this said, James Comey may still be in violation of law. So we'll have to see how all of that shakes out. Well, President Trump has now responded to James Comey, and it is indeed hilarious. So here's President Trump's response. He tweeted out a couple of things about James Comey. And if you just think that America, somehow we ended up in the alternative reality where Biff actually used the sports book to bet on games, and then married Marty McFly's mom, and somehow he ended up in that timeline, you would not be wrong. Because, I mean, this is a real thing that is happening right now today, okay? The President of the United States tweeted this out. First of all, you have the former FBI director accusing the President of the United States of possibly having been peed on by Russian prostitutes, even though he has no evidence of it, and then jabbering ridiculously about the President's hand size. And then you got the President. So the President's sitting around the Oval Office, and Mr. President, just look, Comey's imploding. Okay, just let him implode. It's fine. Everything's good. Just stop. But no, President Trump has to sound. So here's what the President wrote. Pretty fantastic. James Comey is a proven leaker and liar. Virtually everyone in Washington thought he should be fired for the terrible job he did until he was, in fact, fired. He leaked classified information for which he should be prosecuted. He lied to Congress under oath. He is a weak and untruthful slimeball who was, as time has proven, a terrible director of the FBI. His handling of the crooked Hillary Clinton case, capital C, and the events surrounding it will go down as one of the worst botched jobs of history. It was my great honor to fire James Comey. Boom, roasted. Okay, he didn't actually say boom, roasted, but he probably should have, because, I mean, come on. First of all, slimeball, untruthful slimeball is pretty good.